Hi guys, hope all is well. I'm going to do a video quickly about yesterday and some news that happened earlier today as well. So going just off a dollar, still waiting for potentially this area to be broken. I've been saying this for quite a while now. Whether we're going to get a bit of a pull up and fill some imbalance on daily imbalance from the news from yesterday, or if we're actually just going to start kind of heading a little bit lower and taking out this low. So breaking it down, hang on, let me do like a call. So dropping it down to 4 hour now, you can see we have just been pretty much maintaining this bearish momentum. This is our breaker structure. This is our lower low, looking for that lower high and then potential continuation shorter. Now, yesterday, price had ran up into this level. Let's break it down. Price had ran back up into this level. You can see we've manipulated all of these highs in here. Prices then come up and tested this zone, following it through. Prices then tested again this zone here, just sweeping out that high, and again following it down. Prices come back up, and you can see really nicely into the 50%. 50% are where most of the orders are going to be stored within a supply or demand zone. So I never really take trades off the 50%. Personally, I just take them off at the open. But if I can see something's kind of happening in the lower time frame, in around 50% where I'm looking for, I potentially will see if I can get on like a lower time frame entry. So far you can see we didn't actually really break structure at this point. We were breaking intermediate structures, which is fine, and we were just generating liquidity in the form of lows in here. You can see we had this correction, and then we just had that impulse again. So now potentially looking for price to kind of potentially pull back up and head back down south. Now what we can do, we can pull a fib using this. We could potentially see something test back up in here again. If we stay on this hourly, we can see that price has not yet actually tested this last buying volume, which actually came down. So yes, we have like little tests in here, but sometimes I do really like to see price actually come straight into that zone and then actually start continuing back out again. So I'm going to delete this off. Saying that, we do have a really nice 30-minute move in this zone, which is technically still valid because of it being within the 50%. And this was where there was like a lot of news. We manipulated a lot, kind of going into London session, and then we crashed back down. So this is going to be quite a crucial point to see. Now we do have NFP tomorrow. But what I do want to see is if we're ever going to come back up, continue back down lower. Let me just, if we're going to go up into this zone, head back down lower. We're going to come up to here, distribute, and then come back down lower. Or if we're actually just going to break through. And if we do actually break, and now if we do actually break this high, this is going to be a confirm, because now this is our lower low because we've now broken structures. This is going to be our high that we really want to be seeing broken before actually doing any kind of sort of buying. Potentially, in some like intermediate moves, you could see something, but I wouldn't really kind of bank on that personally. I'd probably just wait. There's nicer things to be waiting for. So let's kind of just see how this plays out. US 30 was yesterday's trade, paid out really nice. So I was looking for longs of potentially either this zone down here or this one here. You can see we didn't actually meet that. We did come in and fill some imbalance and a demand zone within this point in here. And you can see we tested that really nice, and then we just pumped and continued. From this, we did come into this hourly zone, which is in here. I did have an order set at the 30%, which is just here. And you can see going into yesterday's close, just one big straight like candle up, just tested me, and then going into Asia, London, and then New York, we kind of fell through. Now I only have my target to this imbalance low. I still did have the idea that price could have still run down into this zone and then gone higher. What I was looking off this 45-minute zone in here. We do have this imbalance in here, so I wasn't really too sure if we were actually gonna just come head back down to that way. So there was still a nice trade that was taken, even though you can if you're looking at the correct structure and the right setups, if you're following like the mitigations and things, it's really quite crucial, and you can actually get some really nice opportunities when trading. So this was yesterday's trade, US 30. This was a 1 to 4.5. So yeah, a US 30 that was really nice. Gold, nothing too much that I was looking at on here. This was an order from last week, really small risk. This didn't play out, that's fine. Now we have actually broken structures. I'm still waiting. I was waiting for this high to be taken. And I have put in the chat a little while ago that I do definitely think that we could get 1970. That could definitely be a motive for the market. So I think we could potentially run up and hit that. This is going to kind of determine if we're going to come back down first, going into NFP, and then potentially run a little higher. If I go into 12-hour, you can see this is where kind of like the sell into the buying started. Down in this zone is basically the same zone that I'm looking for on the dollar. If I just delete this. So this is yesterday's FOMC news. This is really nice. So this is definitely going to be a first target for me to see if we get some reactions from. If failing that, we could run down, I think it's 10 to 10 potentially into this kind of bulk of orders. Now, I'm not really banking on that too much, and I'm not going to set any orders, or I'm not going to be kind of doing anything with it. I just want to kind of see what is and what could potentially happen. But I'm in a couple of short positions at the moment, and I do want to see if price can just run down into my target zone. But let's break to this morning's trade down. So if we jump on a 5-minute. Yeah, so we had our Asian range, which is all within here, this blue box. So you can see just going out of Asian range. So what time is this? So this is 1 in the morning. So you can see going into 1 in the morning, price, I don't know why that is there. There you go. So this is our Asian range here. And you can see leaving Asian range, or leaving the Asian session, sorry, price ran up. We came back down, generating so much liquidity within here, which I was pretty certain price was potentially, not certain, but I was quite confident price is actually going to come take that out in the London session, because you can see going from the New York, when the news happened, we just pumped, and then going to the Asia, we just consolidated, and then just before we pumped even more. So for me, this is kind of a signal that price could potentially start having like a little bit of a turn going down. Now you can see this is basically London open, and we had that one more run. We didn't actually take out this high. I was quite surprised. We did actually generate equal highs. So that could potentially be a point in the future that we're looking for. Just from this point, we had a shift in momentum, looking to potentially come back down. Price then ran up. We tested this last 15-minute zone that was created in the London Open. Price come back down again. We come into this zone. We did, in fact, come into here. So you can see this is our high breaker structure, looking for the zone that caused that this last up move. Hang on, let me just delete all of this off. Yeah. So we had our Asian run, price come back down. Going into London, we had this clean just buy move, and then we actually came down, we broke structures. So I'm just looking for the zone that actually caused that shift and that break. So this 15-minute, this 5-minute was that zone that caused that. Price that ran up, we got that test, and then we started continuing back down here. Price broke structures. I was looking for a small entry within here, but I was in the understanding that price still needed to come back to this, because this was the supply that actually kind of caused this breaker structure. So now we've got a confirmed breaker structure. I'm just waiting to see if price is just going to kind of trickle back down. After the news, I am risk-free on all of these, so whatever happens, happens. But I do potentially think we could get a little bit of this run down here, and then whatever liquidity is resting in the form of highs up here, that's then when potentially tomorrow we could see that run. Sometimes I've noticed after the news, price will actually sometimes only go to the 50% of the range that was created coming off the back of a news release. Now, we do have this 5-minute zone that was down in here, which I was first looking to take a small trade off because we were just following kind of the mitigation trails down. And sometimes these things, you can just get like nice reactions of things like this, because we could have had a liquidity sweep and then price come down a little bit lower. So what I'm potentially waiting for is I want to see if price is going to come back down into these zones. And then if we do actually start breaking structures, that's probably when I'm going to look to see if we can take this up into 1970, because I do think 1970 could actually be an area. Saying that, we could actually just come down going into New York and then pop higher. Who knows? We will wait and see. But we do have a lot of imbalance on the hourly on this zone. So I would not be surprised if we actually had a little bit of a pullback and then rose again. And we've broken structures. So now, after we've had a confirmed higher high, we just want to see if price is going to come back down and create a swing point for us to potentially trade from. So this was gold. I'm going to wait and see what happens with this pair, just so I can have a bit more confirmation. Like, there's no point rushing things. So yeah, let's wait and see. AU, this is really nice. I was in okay, cool. So AU prices broken structures highs. Now we were just looking for that pullback to then actually go long. I got really nice short move in here. Short positions was off this 15-minute in here, because price had actually broken structures, pulled back, and it was actually off of this whole zone. And I was taking my targets down into here. Now I had an order here, and I had an order here as well, because if this did actually just run and test out, then I would have been in my second one anyway. So that's fine. We got into this, came down, hit our target. We kind of just rolled over, came down, hit our target. Now I did actually have a buy order within this zone, and I had a buy order down here as well. What happened here though? Because this is what, like, I feel like I've said this in the video before, but like sometimes when a supply or demand zone from the news is too clean, it sometimes does get ran. And I've noticed this, and this has happened to me a few times. Now I did actually have my target hit here. I should have actually maybe left it a bit just to recover from the loss, because I did have a feeling this was going to happen, but anything really can happen in all fairness. What we did do though is price came back down into this last 15-minute, or was it a 10-minute move that was off the back of news previously. I think it was just this 15-minute. Yeah, so we had news previously that actually came out and price pumped. We almost came down, hit this point. We didn't, and then we continued. It's going to be a lot of stop losses just below this low. So I'm sure some of you guys would have still had orders in here. And then you can see we broke higher. This was a nice zone because we came in and we tested this previous market demand, which kind of caused this shift in momentum. We had equal lows down here. We ran, we broke London high coming into New York. Asian session, we create this like almost like a creek, or it's just like a correction. Price comes down, generate more liquidity. We manipulate and then we push higher. Now, I would have definitely liked to have seen this point come into here, like I'm sure all of us were. But you can see it did actually finally come down and get hit. So going from the back of this, it was an hourly zone that I was looking for, which was down here. And I've got 2 orders in here. And then going from the Asian session, we had this zone, which caused a breaker structure also. Now, I was favoring both of these zones. One reason why I did kind of go for this 5-minute zone is because there was a nice mitigation that happened off of this 5-minute in here. You can see we had a really nice test of that. And then going into the Asian session, price just continued higher. And that was kind of like the catalyst for this break. So I had 2 positions in these. I'm pretty sure I did call these out as well. And again, we can even just scale it down. And this has definitely gone into 50% again. Potentially 50%, it could have had a second order. Again, I don't, because I don't really trade the 50%, but I do know that it is there. You can still see my analysis from yesterday still on here. Orders, price came in. We had the FOMC meeting, and then we just moved. Targets were this high up here, so that was like a nice 1 to 5. So now price has came in and filled this imbalance. I think it's a weekly imbalance, or 3-day. No, I think it was just the daily. So price came in and we filled this kind of like last buying daily move before price actually started to break lower. Even though we've tested that, that does not mean that price can't go higher. On the daily, this technically isn't a break of structure. So we could still have potential move back down to then go higher. Or we could come run deeper to then go higher. Again, we are going to see. I probably doubt it's going to be that crazy. But we still could. What we can do, we can just delete this off for the time being. And drop it down onto a 30-minute chart, 25. Usually, so what I'm doing whenever I'm scaling, from this point here, this big wick that tested this previous candle, this wick is just some like a sell to buy on a smaller time frame. So once you've identified this zone, you want to be kind of going down to actually seeing what is really around here. Okay, so I'm still seeing wicks, so that definitely means there's still going to be something on here. Okay, cool. So we have now this 5-minute zone in here, and then we can potentially drag this across, bring this up into here, and now potentially this is a new buying zone which we can look for because we have broken structures from this point. So now looking for a pullback to then go high is still super valid. Now I'm probably going to take it from this zone. Cool. So you can see fib levels are lining up quite nicely. Looking for any higher targets, which we do have on the AU, we can actually still take this previous candle taken low because we still do have this imbalance in here. So if we break this down, yeah, so we can have a target even up into this daily zone. Now, I do potentially think price could run all of this on a 4-hour. We've got another zone in here, which can be another target. I quite like to just point out zones to kind of see which ones I'm looking for, which ones could be a potential target with everything that I'm kind of seeing. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to leave this to the time being. The only reason why I'm going to keep this here is because price still could, in fact, run. We could potentially just come up a bit, have some sort of reaction going into NFP, come down, and we could actually get that run. That is still valid, because this is technically this is the zone which caused so much of a pump that actually got released. We released probably so much liquidity with under this wick. It's a joke. So because the banks have released liquidity from the market, this has then given them the opportunity to actually pump more in money into the market to then actually push it even higher. So I am going to be looking off these zones. One thing I can see, which is quite nice, is this wick is lining up really, really nicely with that, with my fib retracement 768. So I am going to wait and see what happens with this. We do have weak highs, and this is telling me that we've got some weak highs. This is potentially going to get run, but I do want to see if we can get that downside momentum a little bit more before we actually push it a little bit higher. So for the time being, okay, so this is euro pound. Oops. What's going on? Cool. Euro pounds. We have literally just been, we mooned basically. We mooned. There was a position that I was looking for on an hourly zone. or is it on a 30-minute? Yeah. So I was looking for price to come into this 30-minute zone. I didn't place an order on here. That's fine. I don't mind. Hit the zone, price broke up. I was looking to see if we were going to get a retracement and then push higher. But you can see price has not done that. We have literally just been absolutely on a run. We have come into the zones that I'm looking for, which are in here. I was looking to come potentially off a 12-hour, and I did say, well, wait, I did say, whoops, that I was looking for a 15-minute zone in here. Now, this 15-minute zone still to this day has not been met, and technically, in my opinion, is still valid because we ran all of this in here. I believe we tested a 4-hourly imbalance. Yeah. So we came in to more than 50%. Where are we? We came into more than 50% of this imbalance, which for me is technically I would class as a fill. To be fair, I'd probably just take this to the top of this wick. So we've got a 4-hourly supply zone that was actually filled and met, because if we even go back further than this was the one that took out these highs, and we basically came up and tested an order in here, which was on like a 3-minute or something crazy, I remember. But from the back of this, price had tested this whole major zone, which is in fact our higher time frame accumulation, higher time frame distribution, apologies. So we've got our buying climb. Well, technically we have our PSY, or down here we have our PSY. We have our buying climax. We have that secondary test. Secondary test is nothing more than either just a test or the first point where we actually start liquidating. Then we have the secondary test again. Again, this is nothing more than just another generation of liquidity. Hang on, if I can go to the high. Just had that high got taken out. This is our secondary test. Or you can call this your U team. And potentially, I suppose, looking at it, we have our PSY, we have our buying climax, we have our ST, we have our ST again, because this is technically just like a test high time frame of this zone within here. Then you have your UT, then we have that sign of weakness, then we have that UTAD, and then this is our test. But the one thing that I always say, like with people when trying to learn Wyckoff, is, I know I do always say this, but you don't need to really worry about like the BSY and the buying climax and things like that. I mean, like, it's good to know, but if you can just still like identify, this is nothing more than just raid. We have that one final sweep, price mitigates out of this zone, and then we actually start pushing lower. So now we've actually kind of started taking out these lows. This is going to be a major point to see if we're actually going to potentially push a little bit higher. But what I'm trying to say is, going back to where we were before, because this is testing overall demand in an overall, and testing overall supply in an overall objective that price was doing. From this last final push that we had, this is our mitigation. We had an imbalance on the 4-hourly, which was actually filled within this wick in here. When we drop it down, this wick is nothing more than just a lower time frame point of supply, which still potentially hasn't been met. Now, let's go on the daily. We could run all of this, but I do think we could potentially come back a little bit lower into a zone. We potentially could come and fill a bit more of this wick, but I do potentially think we could have to maybe get that rollover. Again, I am going to wait just to see what happens with this. I'm not going to rush anything, because so far we are still bullish, and we are maintaining that bullishness. We are about 50, 60 pips away from this zone. So I will kind of wait and see a little bit closer to the time what is happening with that. But for the time being, I'm gonna wait until NFP tomorrow, and I'll do a video going into Monday just to kind of see what we're looking at, or I might even do a video after NFP. We'll see how we go. But if you guys got any questions, please let me know. Feel free to fire away, and I'll help you as much as I can. All right, guys.